Right, so let's just give everybody a round of introductions and maybe just share with us how you got started in crypto. How about we start with Abhinav?
Sure. So, hi, my name is Abhinav. I'm from Sears. So, we're actually like a partner company with both Web3 and Sky Mavis. So, we work with Google Cloud and we basically like provide technological solutions to solve for like business problems as well as technology problems of our various Web3 customers. Yeah.
Awesome. Kenneth?
How we started in crypto, right?
Yeah.
Like
Introduction and how you got started in
started
crypto.
buying coins in 2017 and getting into start building stuff in 2020, 2019, doing decentralized VPN and pushing Web3 to enterprise Fortune 500 companies. And I joined Animoca 1.5 years ago.
Nice, that's really fast. And Chris?
I think 2016 and the first big public bull. I bought a CryptoKitty, I think 2 years after that. And then since then, I was trying to figure out what the best way to implement NFT utility in games and started the studio around 2020 and still working strong at it.
Right, if CryptoKitty is your first starting point, that explains a lot on why you're still in gaming. All right, Bailey.
Yeah, so I'm Bailey. I joined in 2019. Lost a lot of money in the black market, buying scams as well. Of course, kind of learned more about smart contracts. Eventually joined Defiance as an intern. Started leading the gaming deals and then eventually joined Sky Mavis as a builder. We really want to kind of, this is the industry that I want to be involved in. I think what we are building in blockchain and gaming space is actually the most interesting in terms of like consumer tech for crypto.
Definitely. And last but not least, Jay.
Don't mind me. All right, so I got into crypto in 2017, 2018. I'm a long-term holder of XRP. And ever since then, I've been working in the gaming industry. And now I'm here sharing some insights and hearing some really great information for a lot of the leaders here in Web3 gaming, right?
All right. Looks like we have a lot of our OG participants over here starting in 2016, 2017. A very good year to get in crypto. If I had a time machine, I would do that as well. All right. So we are going to talk about gaming. And recently, we've seen quite a huge shift, right? We've seen quite the interest die down in the West, like US and Europe. But what we saw in Inverse was that a lot of companies in Asia are actually taking up the mantle to sort of build gaming and make gaming more usable for at least the Asian markets. All right. So from your perspective, right, what lessons can we as an industry take from what the West has went through, but adopt it for Asian markets? Anybody can start.
Yeah, I'll take a step at it.
Okay.
I think, maybe I can speak less about the Western developers. I think maybe you can learn from our own experiences as Axie. So I think what worked for Axie is, of course, like this breeding system, this referral system, this ability for people to come in and play, to earn. Of course, that's not really like the most sustainable way to going to grow the game. But eventually, we still did a lot of marketplace volumes. There's also a lot of revenues. So I think tokens actually allow you to find that early community, right? Be your evangelists. And then that's how eventually, if Axie was like a Web2 game from the start, would you have achieved the same level of success? Maybe not. I think that's what we've learned. So kind of embracing that the Web3 mechanics in referral systems, in using tokens to incentivize early community members, I think that's something that we can take away from. And then of course, some learnings, of course, is making sure that your token schedules are clear, transparent. You don't overpromise to your community members. I think managing expectations is always important. So that's something. I think, of course, many of the other products, I think some of the other panelists can kind of share about.
Yeah.
Maybe I can take a step at it as well. So I think that for gaming, it's slightly different from like DeFi and all of the other industries that are in Web3 as well, right? Because like at the end of the day, gamers have a certain like perspective and a certain mindset. And so if we look at the market in general as well, right, like from gaming, you will see that actually the Western countries have a lot less adoption anyway, right? And Asia, I think it consists of like 2 times the amount of like gamers compared to the rest of like the Western world, right? So definitely on that point of view, there's that part, right? And also, I think for Sky Mavis, like they're one of our customers, and one of their biggest adopters were in the Asian market was because like people were playing to earn. And so I think it's also a slightly different concept for the Western world, right? Like they kind of have like other jobs that they kind of aspire for. whereas like the Asian market had people who were more willing to try out something new to earn something, right? So definitely there's that portion as well. But at the end of the day, I think the title of this is like beyond the hype, but there's also a hype portion within gaming, right? I think that's where all of us start some game, right? Like you see, I don't know, like something on Instagram, you see some of your friends play it, and that's where like you start going into gaming, right? And so there's definitely like hype factor, and that's the same with Sky Mavis, right? Like the pickup for games is always exponential. Yeah, so there needs to be like that hook factor and that hype factor as well.
Definitely, I think what Web3, at least what Axie Infinity did really well was combine that whole community together with the gaming, where those two merge very perfectly on the blockchain. And we kind of see that in your typical Web2 games, like, you talk about WoW, you have your marketplaces, you have your communities, even people like just gathering around to just talk about raid ideas, things like that. But I think it's really in Web3 where we see the potential for this kind of seamless merge, where gamers can sort of experience, enjoy the game, but at the same time also get connected with the community, get rewarded at the same time. Kenneth, do you have any opinions on this question?
Yeah, I would say, I'm speaking from Animoca portfolio point of view as well as the gaming studios that we work with, right? So we got a JV in Japan, Animoca Japan with Mitsubishi. We have a lot of working relationship with conglomerates and gaming studios such as like Sega, Namco, Square Enix, and those companies. In Korea as well, met like great gaming studios. All they do is not really trying to be degens or cater to the degen audience. What they do is only extracting a very, like the best part of Web3 and the blockchain technology embedded into the game. Such as like, do the gamers actually trust that it's truly randomized, right? In terms of like tradability and ownership and selling your accounts, game accounts is already happening, but it's like doing that in a very inefficient way. And with the, for example, new standard 6551 token bound account, you can basically like sell your account, right? So I think a lot of those gaming studios are only extracting the best part of Web3 to enhance the game and anything outside of the game as well. But they're not thinking about building a fully Web3 game for degens.
I see. So Web3 is just more of like an additional feature to supplement the games that they already have. Okay.
And just on the Western side, right? Like all of last year and the year before, we treated NFTs more as a pre-sale type of utility, right? And it's a glorified Kickstarter. How did we really want to raise funds to develop the game? But for the years coming up, Animoca, a lot of these projects are going to start coming to light, and a lot of these newer games are going to have to start building without this pre-funding through NFT sales. It's a lot to ask the user base to put a big chunk of their savings into a game that might not have even utility for that NFT. How many times have you seen an NFT sold that says it's some really epic legendary sword, but we don't even know what the game's going to be yet, right? So probably in the next year or two, we'll start to see a lot of these games come out and either do a softer integration as maybe 5 to 10% of those assets are going to be NFTs, and maybe even release the game first and then shift over to a pure token economy. But it should be better for the industry as a whole.
I understand. I think that you also touched on a point. I think because like pre-funding games that have not been developed has been around in Web2 for a long time, right? And Web3 sort of adopted a kind of model. I mean, we saw what happened with No Man's Sky. They took forever to like sort of polish their product, but at least with NFTs, we might see this kind of economy play out slightly differently. Not too sure yet to see. But yeah, pretty excited for that. Jay, do you have a point on this?
Well, from what I see is that there's some cultural differences as well. So what I mean is that in the Western gaming market is predominantly dominated by AAA studios, right? Whereas in the Asian side is, lack of better term, decentralized, meaning that there's a lot more smaller indie game studios. And obviously, you could just tell by the statistics. So last year, the revenue accounted for all worldwide games, 50% came out of Asia, right? So what you're saying is that Asia has always been forerunners in terms of technological innovations, games, content. And that's why we see that a lot of the Web3 gaming boom is happening right here in Asia, like Korea, Japan, Hong Kong. And I think that's a lot of cultural difference because of the AAA studios. They're focused on that traditional, conventional game content they're a little bit more adamant in implementing Web3 game technology or Web3 into their game technology. So, but the thing is though, we do hear that a lot of AAA studios are actually investing and doing R&Ds with Web3s. So what we're seeing right now is that obviously Asia is still at the forefront, but there's going to be a pop-up at one point. There's going to be a success story, a successful game tokenomics or a successful Web3 gaming that actually helps that push for mass adoption. I personally believe that it might happen here in Asia, right? But whatever the case is, we're still in the forefront, and it's us as game developers to kind of pave that road for others who are wishing to come to Web 2 to Web 3, right? So, we got to see. But I think we're in a very crucial point where we need to work together. For example, not only create high quality game contents, but at the same time make sure that we're able to onboard the next billions of Web 2 users in Web 3. For example, working with Web3us for NPCs or social logins or Mercurial for fiat on and off ramp. So it's very important that we set the grounds and environment for not only game developers but Web 2 gamers coming to Web 3.
Understand, and I think Jay put up a good point. I mean, move on to the next question. What do you think are the important milestones that us as an industry need to build so that your AAA studios, your game developers, even your publishers and your indie game developers will be willing to at least take that dive or take that first step into Web 3? And this could be any kind of milestone. It could be technical, it could be a feature, even like trying to build trust.
I'll just give a quick one. So we haven't, as an industry, reached a point where it is easy for game studios to find users. The infrastructure in Web 2 is very built out, right? You want to find users, you have a marketing budget, you put it into Google, you put it into Facebook, you find users in that way, you measure your conversion rates. What does that look like in the Web 3 world? I think we as industry, we need to get there first. There are many different startups working in that direction. How do you use token budgets to kind of find users? Is that through questing? Is that through some kind of wallet targeting, converting some guys with potential airdrop? All of those things need to be kind of done or created into a playbook that there are tools that the game developers can use and understand before we can actually kind of find the next 100K, 200K users rather than kind of being activated at in real life events. You actually use a product, you use a tool that can actually market to those users, right? So whether that's on Polygon chain, that's on Ronin chain, whichever chain they are, there's some way to kind of figure out what are their preferences and then kind of incentivize them to come over and try the game. So that's, I think, my point of view.
Okay.
I mean, what you guys are doing with social login, right? I think we've seen a lot more competition, if I'm going to put it nicely, come out the past year or two. There's one part about reducing friction, which it's been priority number one, but like everyone on the panel is really thinking, what is the best way to provide utility to these users to go through the friction of, I still have to go to Coinbase, I still got to purchase this thing, or I got to pay 6% to MoonPay, whatever it might be. So step one is that friction removal, which we're still working on. But step two is, can the developer publisher eat those costs to allow users to feel good about that first purchase? Because buying that first NFT, it doesn't really feel good. It feels good when it goes up, but man, a free mint, how much does a free mint cost these days? Like $20, $30? That doesn't make a lot of sense. So step one is get more people using social login and key management, account abstraction services. But step two is, as the developer publisher, almost bake that into CPI costs, where we want the users to have this most seamless experience, and we're willing to pay $10, $15, $20, whatever that gas might be, for them to own the NFT.
I see. And Animoca, I think you guys also have a large portfolio of games trying to solve this issue as well.
Yeah, I think the major milestones that like gaming studios or the portfolio companies are thinking about, they want to try it out, and then basically using probably like old IPs, right, from gaming studios to test it out, because like there's backlash as well in terms of like from the gaming community, like they're getting Web3 and they're rug pulling and scamming money or something like that. So I think like those, they need like real user adoption, really from using actually the old IPs. But I personally actually think Web3 is perfect for more casual social co-op kind of games, almost like a social casino, right? So I think like it's really perfectly designed for that. I think a lot of the companies are also trying out not building AAA games right away, but building more hyper casual games to test it out right now.
On that point, skill-based gaming, right? We were talking about that earlier, how important that's going to be for casual games to have some kind of additional competitive layer, such as skill-based or stake-based gaming. Social casino is one, but there are other ways that we can probably skin this cat.
And also, I think a lot of people do have a bit of like an irk when you talk, oh, you're building a Web3 game, right? They've either have had like negative experiences or they just don't think too highly of it. What do you think as an industry as well? What can we do to sort of change that mindset? I think making games just fun is definitely one of them. But if you guys have any other ideas, I'd love to pick your brains on that. How do we make Web3 gaming more trusted?
I think there's one
Trustable.
way you could do that is that if you focus at the end of the day, Web3 gaming is still a game, right? So I think instead of focusing on the tokenomics of the game, you need to focus on the core game contents, right? Because like you guys all said, the tokenomics of the Web3 elements is only add value, right? So if you just take away that out of the equation, it's still a game. And it has to be fun. It has to be engaging. Now, if you kind of focus on the gaming side, then users are be a bit more and more open to play the game. And instead of forcing the Web3 elements, slowly easing them into that element of Web3 of digital ownerships, being transferred, all that kind of stuff, right? I think that's a good guidance and a transition for users who, obviously are curious about Web3 or never heard of it. You can kind of ease them their way into Web3 and kind of change that market sentiment. I know, with the market being down and a lot of rug pulls and stuff, it makes us as game developers that more incentivized to say, hey, Web3 is not about digital currencies or anything like that. We need to focus on the game and the value it brings in Web3. I think that's like the best course of action that we could do as game developers, publishers, or studios, or even VCs to do, right? And I think we're heading the right direction right now, but we need to work together and kind of make that thing happen a bit more quickly, right?
Definitely. The call is still to make games fun. Good. How about you guys?
Well, I guess a lot of the previous games actually sell NFTs at a very high price, right? When you pay a certain price, then you have certain expectation. So I think it's more about managing expectation. There should be a free-to-play element, and there should be a path for user to own something, to work their way up. But there should be also another way to buy their way up as well, right? So I think like that expectation management is very important to get people in. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe if I can add on to that point, right? And also kind of answering the previous question, I think that there's a aspect that's really important, which is understanding like the gaming mindset of today anyway, right? When we look at finance in Web3, right? People are used to having to invest a certain amount to get a certain return. But when we look at games today, they have transited from like when we used to buy games in the past, right? We used to pay up money up front versus today where like a lot of games use like subscription models to earn money. They use like mystery boxes to earn money. So people have very low barriers to entry to come in. Like imagine if today one of you had to download a game on your phone for $20, no one would buy it, even though it's just $20, right? But if it was free and you had to buy a $20 mystery box to get some item that you're, for a game that you're already invested in, then there's something. So I think that free to play like aspect to it is really important, right? And then there's some kind of like a premium factor to having your NFTs, right? So maybe you have like things like a mix of NFTs where people can sell them for actual money versus things that people can't, right? And like there's that mix so that people who, you guys are talking about hyper casual stuff, right? There's this aspect of drawing people into this hyper casual thing without them having to make an investment first and then making an investment in it when they are in it already, when they already meet people and they want to see more value in the things that they're doing within that ecosystem, right? Before they even like have to put down the cash. Yeah.
I think that hyper-casual freemium gacha model has actually been very profitable in this like the past 2 years. Hoyoverse has made billions of dollars. Even your Summoner's War, you have all these mobile gacha gamers throwing billions of dollars. FGO, I think, just reported 8 billion in revenue just from their gacha game alone. And actually, I think that is where Web3 has the potential to shine, right? The problem with this games as a service is that your NFTs or whatever assets that you purchase within the mobile game only exist for as long as the game's life cycle. And potentially what NFTs would allow all these gamers to do is give their waifus or their characters like a second life, right? It's just that I think right now we have not seen your mobile gacha games like your FGO or your Genshin Impact sort of adopting this model yet. And which kind of leads me to the next question, right? What do you think are the incentives for these kind of studios or these kind of game developers to actually take that dive into Web3? What do you think we can do to incentivize them?
I mean, step one is everything's about revenue, right? Make it easier for the developer to carry on their live operations by having better payment solutions, better onboarding solutions. But this is a bigger ecosystem problem, right? Where like we've been hearing about the PayPal stablecoin, but what is it? What does it do? It's nice that a lot of our users already, for the games we work on, have PayPal accounts connected to their game, but they can only use fiat or they can use their credit card. If we have an integration like that, maybe it's great. There's companies like Xsola or these other payment solution companies that are trying to figure this out. So that'll probably be step one, because wallets are just about owning those assets, right? It's a very transparent database that the user can control, but how do we get money in? That will probably be step one.
So the question was on how do we incentivize these
Developers,
developers, right?
to build on Web3.
Yeah, maybe you can share an example from XE Core, which is a new system that we developed, right, to enable deeper and wider experiences. So there are certain points and materials we can put into our partner games, their games, right? So that's also an economic way to kind of drive our users into different games that we partner with. So imagine like the user had to play a certain, let's say a puzzle game to farm a certain amount of materials. He collects that, he wants to kind of create this new part for his XE, change the visual aspect. Some people might not want to do it. They might not want to play a match 3 game to get that. Perhaps they can actually buy it off the marketplace. So stuff like that is also lends some kind of economic significance, right? To make sure that the user actually is rewarded if he tries out a new game. So from an ecosystem perspective, that's how XE is designing itself to be able to partner with the different mods, different genres of XE IP games that's going to come out. So right now we have like maybe more than 5 of different XE IP games coming out. We could be experimenting with this system. I think this will actually drive some users there, giving some kind of more data points to some of these early games to see whether they are actually promising in terms of a product or actually just a game that's going to be killed off to make way for something better. So yeah, that's one example.
Definitely. I think that whole distribution, like community building is something that Web3 sort of excels in. If you look at Web2 games, the Steam launcher is an excellent point for game developers to sort of distribute their games, get a good user base going. And I think Animoca is also trying to build that kind of distribution for Web3 games in specific. Kenneth, do you want to talk a little bit more about that in terms of distribution points?
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of the subsidiary portfolio founders, right? And then I would say most of them are actually good gaming studios. They can build good games, but they don't even want to like care too much about like going on Discord, talk to them, build in public, and like Twitter Spaces and all this kind of stuff. They just want to build good games. They don't even know like what to tokenize, right? What kind of prize they want to prize the NFT at. They hate it, and I think there is a strong need for Web3 publishing and for distribution, not only at a service level but also at an ecosystem and product level as well, to actually bring true growth to those gaming studios. So let them focus on building good games, but there needs to be a good advisor and service and products to help them to understand what to tokenize, what not, how to price it, right? How to manage community. So yeah, I think that is what's lacking right now, and I think that would really supercharge the whole industry.
speaking on the Web3 games publisher, right? I mean, Twitter Spaces are god awful most of the time, right? It's about pumping the token. When can I buy this asset? When do I want to do this? When do I want to do that? One of Animoca's portcos, we actually work with them, Black Tower Studios, as Project GOM. It's probably going to be named Project Arcanima. Pretty core action RPG, very Akira Toriyama style. They just make great games. They have no idea how to navigate the NFT holders, and do we really even want them to do that? It's probably going to just take opportunity cost away for them to make a really good game. So if we can have a presence of Web3 publishing that handles the blockchain layer, the community management layer, as well as the user acquisition layer, it should help a lot entice Web2 developers to go into our pretty scummy space at times, right? It's just sort of scary to enter it.
Yeah, totally agree with you on that. It is a huge beast to sort of navigate, and I think more often than not, game developers are more like scared off even before they get started. Yeah, which sort of leads to our next point. Like, what kind of specific Web3 use cases in gaming are you excited about? Do you think like, okay, this is something I can buy into, I'm going to jump through the hoop. It's really exciting because it's specific to Web3. I'm willing to, like, do all this kind of heavy lifting just to get it on board. Anything that excites you at all?
Well,
Anybody?
I guess
I've got an answer.
composability, right? Let's say like different components of the character that you can assemble, you can break it down, you can upgrade it, craft it, and stuff like that. And like dynamic NFT, seeing that in real time, and like you when you buy the NFT, you can buy from secondary market is synchronized in real time. The tradability of the assets as well, right? And as I said, like token bound account, I think it would be like pretty promising. The proof of randomness and permissionless, trustless element of it, like all those that can be fully leveraged.
So actually a lot of features already in Web3. Do you guys have any other things you want to add on?
Can I say something really cliche?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think a lot of our teams, we look at a lot of great applicants, right? Because obviously they want to build high quality games. And I think some of them saw a lot of them, right? We see a lot of unique aspects when it comes to Web3 elements. But for me personally, I think the unknown, like for example, the internet, the boom at the early stages, people don't know how big it's going to be, like how it's going to be integrated to our daily lives. So, and I think this kind of this speaks with Web3 gaming as well. Right now, we see all these kind of cool stuff. Obviously, the Forerunners, it started with Axie Infinity right now. Now we see game developers bringing unique aspects and components and innovative features that combines both Web3 and gaming. And I think just by seeing those kind of stuff, like new monetization, gameplay that actually leaves the confines of the game, getting players more engaged outside of the game, all those kind of stuff is so intriguing that I think the unknown, like what will be the next success story, like the anticipation itself is I think it's one of the key components for us as game developers to kind of, keep on building in the space.
Awesome. Looking forward to that. Is anybody else?
I think for me, one of the things that would be interesting would be kind of like a multiverse concept, right? Where like it's a bit of the transferability between games. So I think that's something that Ronin is trying to do as well, right? Like basically be a chain for all games to build on top of them, right? And along with that, a bit of what Web12 does, which is identity management. And for gamers, right, like imagine going into a game and just knowing who you are talking to because you have met them in another game and knowing it's that person, right? It's a bit like ZK, like you know the person but you don't know the person. And I think there's quite a cool aspect to that, to building the community as well, because there's a level of like trust but at the same time there's that level of safety to know people as well, right?
Yeah. Just building on that, I think the way we like to understand it is also like the social graph is what you own, right, in the blockchain. So how do you log into different experiences while retaining the same friend list that you have? That's going to be interesting, like the profile feature that Animoca as well mentioned. And then also, more interestingly, is like creator empowerment. How do we allow creators to kind of launch their own marketplaces, eventually earn royalties off of them, off of these marketplaces, and enforce on a smart contract level? Even referral systems, right? How does that work on chain? Is there a way to kind of create this on-chain affiliate program where there's some level of network marketing elements involved, right? A creator refers different creators, and then eventually every one of them kind of refers their own community on top of it. How does that incentive flow between the different levels? Something like that could be done, and I'm kind of excited to see how it will be achieved on chain.
Definitely. I think a number of Web2 games currently do employ, let's say your banner launcher, you have your chat functions, you have marketplaces and things like that. But Web3 would definitely be able to sort of supercharge that experience, especially for the gamers, especially to reward not just your gamers, but also the content creators. Because I think in the future, or at least now, they are the new points of distribution, right? People go to streamers for game recommendations, and compared to your traditional marketing channel. So I think, yeah, that's a really interesting point. All right, so we are good for time. Just one last question, controversial. From the gaming industry, when do you think this whole bear market is going to end?
Are you sure we're in a bear? I feel like we're not in a bear market, are we? Like, what's a
bear?
We're still like above 25 for Bitcoin. I mean, a true bear will be like sub 10K for Bitcoin, I think. But I don't know.
So you think we are going into a bear?
Hey, I don't know. I think we have to generate revenue lots of different ways. It makes us work a little bit harder. But yeah, jokes aside, I mean, who can predict the future? If anyone knows, please let me know so I can move everything off my cold wallets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think on a little bit of a more serious note, maybe is when a game has actually a sustainable product, right? The revenues are kind of forecastable. You have something that the players actually want to spend on, like just for the pure fun of it, rather than like financial returns. And then how do you direct those flows in the economy when it's growing? There's a lot of ways you can direct those flows within the economy, pump the token, pump the NFTs. Everything's just easier when there's people spending. So most of the time right now, people aren't really spending their game. They aren't just purchasing something for the fun of it. So I think when we get to a game when there has the element and the game is deep enough on a content level, many people kind of jump in, all the guilds jump in, right? When you have that game that is stable enough for them to build their businesses on top, I think that's where we see the kind of gaming market kind of coming back a little bit. Yeah.
Definitely. We're all hoping for that shining star to lead the way.
Let me know if you find out when the bull market starts. But for me, I think this cycle is going to be gaming, right? And I'm really, really excited to see how far we could go with this bull cycle or upcoming bull cycle, right?
Yeah. Kenneth, you should have some insights.
I will not answer that question for compliance reasons.
Okay. Not legal advice.
I think for me, like I mentioned earlier on, I think that gaming is about hype to some extent. And one of the big factors that we want to see in the Web3 space for gaming is to kind of overcome the technological trade-offs that like have to be given away, right? Like certain things in Web2, for example, really quick latency, like those kind of things. We are trading them off now, which is why like games are in the middle because they are deciding do they want to keep on to like really good and fast games, or do they want like some aspects of the Web3 that we have like be talking about today, right? And I think that once we kind of bridge that gap and we don't have so much to trade off, then there will be like more developers. I wouldn't say that a hype would appear, but there will be more developers who are willing to invest their time and energy into this new technology, and then we'll wait for like a game that catches the hype, right? Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for sharing your opinions. Ladies and gentlemen, please give the panelists a round of applause.